Good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 6 of the class. But it's not really day 6. Today is actually day 21 of the class. And the way that I calculated that out is because in an accelerated course like this, where everything is condensed into 1 month, every day counts as actually 3.5 days. So if you do the math on that, you find that today is actually day 21. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because there are many of you in the course who are acting as if it's day 6 and falling steadily behind. So today is your wake up call for you to understand where we are in the course, how fast things are moving, and to make some changes. All right. As a reminder, you're on the hook for working 4.5 to 5 hours every day. Those are the terms of the course. When you sign up for summer school, when you did your application and your paperwork and all that stuff, it would have been there somewhere that students are expected to work for 4.5 to 5 hours every day. And so for those of you who've been putting in fewer than that many hours, you're going to have to start working at least that much, if not more, in order to get caught up. Things are going to keep moving. And if you take a look at the terms and conditions that I posted on Friday, you'll see that the course will eventually end, and when it ends, it's just over. And if you're not done the course, you're not going to get your credit. And I don't want that to happen to you. So that's why I'm giving you this message nice and early on in the course. Next thing that I want to talk about are some issues that I've been seeing in people's work, and I want to clear those up. And then I'll get to discussion posts at the very end. So the first one is specific versus vague. One of the big pushes that I have in a 4C class is to make sure that students go off to college being specific in their writing as opposed to being vague in their writing. And I've got a little thing that I like to use to show the difference between specific and vague. I want you to think of we're in the realm of movies, right? So I want you to think of a movie that you know that I haven't watched. And so to give you a little background, I'm 38 years old. I live in Renfrew County. That matters. Family guy with, I'm married with a couple of kids. I don't know. Based on that information, I want you to try to think of a movie that you know that I wouldn't be interested in. You have it? Okay. Well, I've actually watched that movie, and to tell you the truth, it's actually one of my favorites. First up, I got to say that the writing was spectacular. It is such a well-written movie with great dialogue between great characters. Speaking of characters, these are some of the most imaginative characters that I've ever come across. I mean, some movies give you characters who, you just can't really relate to, but the characters in this movie, not all of them, but most of them, very, very relatable. And the plot, I mean, it just kept me guessing. I kept wanting to watch to see what would come next. It was the sort of movie that just made me, and it made me laugh sometimes. I found there were those funny parts. Now, I didn't like every part of the movie. There were some things about it that I didn't really like, but on the whole, I have to say it is one of the best films that I have ever seen. Okay. So, obviously, what I did there was I just spoke in vague terms. I haven't seen whatever movie it is. I have no idea what you would have chosen, right? But by speaking in vague terms, I can sort of fake it. And this is the problem with some people's writing that I've been coming across. And I'm not saying that you're faking it. I'm not saying that you haven't done the readings or that you're trying to BS your way through it. But it does maybe come across that way if you're writing vague. All right. So what you need to do is you need to be specific. These are the opposites. You got specific and you've got vague. Specific. What you need to do is you need to give me some examples or clear details that only a person who's done the readings would know. This is kind of how I judge things as a teacher. I ask myself, could somebody who hasn't actually read that article say this? And if the answer is yes, then you're being vague. If you leave me with questions, if you leave me wondering, why, or wondering where, or wondering what, then you're being vague. Being specific means you're going to be nice and clear. So to give you some examples of that, out of a movie that I have actually watched recently, that I don't know if you would know about it, but it's called The Legends of the Fall, and it was a movie that came out I think in like the '90s, and I never got around to watching it. Some specific details out of the movie is it takes place at the turn of the 20th century. So the father in the movie, whose name is Colonel Ludlow, specific detail, and he's got three boys. But an officer in the United States Army, specific detail, and he settles down in the far west over the Rocky Mountains in the United States and raises his three children, who are Alfred, Tristan, and Samuel. Specific details. And those boys grow up, and one of them, Samuel, he falls in love with a woman named Susanna, who he brings back to the ranch. Specific detail. And this is what caused the big complication, because all three of the brothers actually fall in love with Susanna. So these are specific details that only people who have watched, and you can be even more specific. Like you can get into the deaths, like the death of one of the characters. I guess I won't. I guess I have to give away some of the things here now, because I've committed myself to being specific. Samuel dies when he gets caught in some barbed wire in World War One, and German machine gunners set up a machine gun and kill him with a machine gun. That's pretty specific detail. You wouldn't know that detail if you didn't watch the movie. You wouldn't know that Tristan lives to be an old man, and he actually dies at the very, very end. He gets into a fight with a grizzly bear, and it might be the same grizzly bear that he got into a fight with when he was just a boy. Again, specific details. That's probably not actually accurate, because I don't think bears live that long, but that is kind of like how the movie presents it. Anyways, these are specific details. They show me, they would show me that the person has watched that movie, and that's what I want you to do in your writing. Is I want you to be nice and specific. I want you to give clear examples of things. I want you to make reference, drawing quotations even. Pieces of evidence. Those are things that prove to me that you have done the reading, and that's how you would earn marks. So that's the first problem. Second problem, and it's not going to take me long to talk about this one because I'm not going to go into much detail about it, is citation style. So I'm looking at these information paragraphs, and about half of them are properly cited and half of them are not. You must go off to college knowing how to cite information that you've used in your work. It's pretty simple. If you take a piece of information from somewhere else and put it in your writing, you have to cite the source, because you have to give credit to the person that piece of information came from. If you write something that's common knowledge, if you didn't have to look it up, then it's fine. If you're writing your own opinion, you don't have to cite anything because it's yours. But if you've gone on the internet somewhere and taken, or in a book, and taken a piece of information and you put that, if it's a statistic, if it's a quotation, anything at all, any fact that you had to look up, you must cite that source in the text of your writing. So at the end of the sentence that piece of information is in, I should see in brackets a citation. Then at the very end, I should see a list of the sources that you cited from. That's your bibliography or your list of works cited. So you put those in at the very end. So if I cited Wikipedia 10 times within my paragraph, then I've got the bibliographic entry for Wikipedia at the bottom, which I won't have because I'm not going to use Wikipedia in my academic writing, even though I use it all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, I love Wikipedia as a place, like a first stop to go for information on the subject that I don't know much about. But it is not an academic source. It's not a scholarly source. You don't use that for your formal writing because you will look like an amateur. So what you do is you use Wikipedia, but you use other sources and you cite the other sources. And if you need to find a statistic, find it somewhere else. So if Wikipedia told me, I don't know, how many kilometers Terry Fox ran for in his run across Canada, I want to find that same fact somewhere else. So I know what the fact is. I could cite Wikipedia, but I'm not going to. I'm going to find that same fact somewhere else in a better source, and I'm going to cite it because that makes me look good. What you can't do is you cannot not cite sources. And when you're citing a bibliography, you cannot just drop in a hyperlink. That's something that I criticize grade 9s for. All right, I would be on your case if you were in grade 9 applied English and dropping in hyperlinks as your citations at the end. That just doesn't cut it, and it's not necessary. To write up a full citation takes you, I don't know, maybe a minute to do the whole thing. So it's a minute out of your life to do it correctly, and then your work looks proper and professional. So just get that done. So where are we at? 11 minutes here, so I gotta hurry. Discussion posts. So this week, you've hopefully noticed if you're current in the course that I'm adding in grammar. And the reason why I'm adding in grammar is because it's important for you as college-bound students to go off to college with effective grammar so that you can communicate more effectively. I'm not going to be like a 20th century grammarian with the purple book of grammar that we have to go through and learn about dangling participles and faulty pronoun references. But what I am going to be doing is making sure that we go over the basics of things like capitalization and full sentences, and we'll get into other things later on that are a bit more complicated, but nothing huge, like comma usage, things that are useful to you, things that are going to be day to day. They're going to be things that you're actually using. So you're going to be practicing those out in the discussion forums. So I want those discussion posts that you're posting to be thoughtful and to be well written. I don't ask for a lot, but what I do ask for is that it's of good quality, because you're having a conversation with other people who are going to become educated professionals. You are going to become an educated professional. You should speak and you should write like an educated professional. So learn the grammar. If it's things that you already know, like if you already know the rules of capitalization, you can skip that video. If you're unclear on them, or if I keep criticizing you for miscapitalization, then watch the video, learn what you're missing, and then make sure that you're using that in your discussion posts. On the discussion forums, I should see aside from posts that are of good quality, I should see that you're making posts in a timely way. So if you're behind in the course, at the very least, try to find out what we're discussing and be part of the discussion. And don't be afraid to disagree with somebody else. And this is something that I wanted to mention too, because I just finished teaching an online philosophy course for university prep students, and it took until the very end of the course for them to become comfortable disagreeing with each other, because nobody wanted to hurt anybody else's feelings. The rule is simple. Disagree with the idea, not the person. All right? Take exception to what the idea is, not the person. And that way we're sort of separating the person from the ideas, and we criticize the ideas. In philosophy, I teach that a good idea can stand up to the test. And so putting an idea to the test by disagreeing with it, all that does is it forces the author to back up and support their idea. And if it's a worthy idea, they should be able to do that easily. So it's fine to disagree with people. I'm kind of expecting you to disagree with people in a nice, respectful way, and nobody is going to get their feelings hurt. All right? So to summarize today's video, number one, make sure that you're aware of what the pace of the course is, that we're moving at like 3.5 days per day. And if you're not putting in 4 to 5 hours every day, you're probably not working hard enough. Number two, be nice and specific in your writing. Number three, if you're not using proper citation style, figure that out ASAP. And number four, in those discussion posts, make sure that you're applying the grammar and feel invited to disagree respectfully whenever you want to.